Going on, everybody? This is Daryl Andrews, Coach D, coming to you with another one of our wonderful LinkedIn Lives and Facebook Lives and YouTube Lives, and this streams to all of the networks that we're a part of. So just want to come in and share some information that could be helpful. And in particular, today, if you're in workforce development or even education or even in the if you're a company business owner, this information is going to be helpful to you. It's going to be helpful because we right now live in a time that I've never seen before. We've had shortages, let's say, of people historically going into the workplace. And we definitely have had that, but we never had a time that I can recall in my work over the years in which people don't want to go to work. I mean, it's like, people are usually trying to find jobs and trying to get in there, and so if you join us and you share some thoughts, for Facebook, some reason I get Facebook users. So make sure you put your name in there so I know who you are, because right now it's just when it pop up, it says Facebook users. So this is going to be a game changer as far as those who are out there saying, why in the world are all these people not going back to work? All right. So I'm going to give some general thoughts. I'm going to give some philosophical thoughts as a person. Hey, Lily, how you doing? Good to see you. We were just at the Pennsylvania Workforce Development Association Symposium. It was phenomenal. And that's why I think I'm fired up coming back talking about this, because I was with some professionals from all over the country, talking about workforce development, talking about where it is, what's going on, how we're going to get people back to work, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and a variety of things. So, so we're going to be sharing some thoughts. But so the first thing I just really want to kind of, hey, Oscar, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Again, all of you who are jumping on board, man, this is going to be information. If it's not for you, take and give it to somebody else, because right now America is in one of the most perplexing situations it's experienced in a long time. And that is, we have like all these jobs and we got folks that don't want to take the jobs. Now, there's a lot of highly intelligent reasons why. There's some great research that's being done out there and all. But I'm going to give some practical things, okay? I'll leave the research for the researchers. We do research too, but I'm going to talk about some practical things that why people just aren't going back to work, all right? And so if you own a company, or if you're an HR person, or again, if you're in workforce development trying to position, get these organizations and companies to work along with you and talk about this subject, it's going to be really, I think it's going to be beneficial, okay? All right, so just a practical philosophical thought on as why people aren't going back to work. Number one, this is going to seem weird and strange, but it's the truth. We scared the heck out of people last year. To be honest with you, we did. When COVID hit, let's go back. Let's not look at where we are now. Let's go back to where we were. Back in February of 2002, March 2002, this was doom and gloom. It was, man. We were losing thousands of people, over 500,000 people right here in the United States alone. Family members, cousins, cousins. I mean, all these people, children, leaving us because of COVID. I personally lost 10 friends, and it breaks my heart to this day. And one young man, it was like a young mentee, a younger man. And so let's think about this. Let's be logical. If you're in workforce development, or if you're an employee, let's be logical. You can't have that much trauma last year. And in this year, all the way, matter of fact, it kicked into this year a little bit, like February up to like March or April. And just think people are going to forget that. You know what I mean? So people are still recovering. People are nervous. If I have an underlying situation, an underlying circumstance, and I go out here and get sick, well, the reality is I don't want to go out here. I'll stay at home, especially if I'm getting, work compensation of some type. So the first thing is just really, people just, last year was traumatic for a lot of people. So a lot of people are there. So what's the solution to that? We have to find ways to communicate to people. I know everybody has their thoughts on vaccines and masks and all that, But reality, they can do some things to try to improve their chances of not catching this virus. Like for me, I'm still wearing a mask. I'm vaccinated, I'm still wearing a mask. The Delta variant is out here. I did my first live conference in 2 years, but I felt comfortable with it. I had my mask on. When I presented, I put my mask, took it off, but when I got back, I put my mask on. So, I can go out, I can interact, and I can engage. So a lot of it's just educating people because keep in mind, last year was traumatic, man. It was really traumatic. And so now they just say to people, oh, we're good. We can go back to work. They're like, please, man, you just told me last year, if we go out there, we may drop, something may happen to me. So that's just a more philosophical type thing. But yesterday, and I hope you don't mind me using his name, but man, I just saw one of the most amazing presentations by Dr. Chris Laney of ESMI, a big research company. And I was really impressed with his work. Actually, I'm glad I got a chance to meet him. They do a lot of research and look at the data on various trends and, what we were talking about as far as why people aren't going back to work. He and his company did some research on it. And I was so impressed with the data. I'm not one of those folks that's always just into data and research because that's not my thing, but you need it in order to come up with solutions. So I was really moved by, the reasons why he was saying that people aren't going back to work, some of the different things. He said some things and there were other people as well, but I was really impressed with how he presented it. And so I listened to his information, but then at the end, he said something that I really want to dive into, that businesses and organizations, companies, nonprofits across the board that are looking to get and retain people need to think about. Okay. Now, he shared all types of information. He even talked about the opioid crisis. He talked about just the natural trends of attrition. I didn't know this, but last year he mentioned that 3 million boomers went out of the marketplace after COVID. I said, that's a lot of people. 3 million boomers, 3 million. I said, my goodness, that's a lot of people. So now you have that void. You know what I mean? That's like 3 million jobs right there because basically people opted out, took their packages and just said, I'm retiring. So you got that practical thing. And then again, he talked about other things, like I said, the opioid crisis. There's a lot of different things that are involved. But at the end, he said something that really almost had me jump out of my seat because I said, I've been saying this for 20 years. I've been saying it for 20 years to organizations, to businesses, to corporations, to workforce groups, all over the place because we do most of our work in workforce and all of that. But he basically said what it boils down to when it comes to getting and retaining people, listen to this, not rocket science, is valuing people. Just valuing them and making them feel valued. Because what happened last year is changed the paradigm of how people see life, work, and everything else. You got to imagine, home almost a year with your children, with your families. And so the mindset people has shifted because they're like, man, I'm spending more time with my kids. I'm engaging in family activities. I'm doing this, I'm doing that with different people within the scope of possibility based. And so now it's like, I got this mindset. I like this. I like values. I like being, home with my children. And then the organizations who did value your people during COVID, people appreciated that. You know what I mean? Okay, I know it's hard to do hybrid, so figure out how you may have to adjust your day. You don't have to do a typical 9 to 5, just get the job done. And people are like, thank you, because I got my kids here doing schooling, I got all these different things. And so people with those kind of companies love that work, man. They said, thank you, this company is showing that they care about me. And so right now, the big thing in order to get and retain people is really to show people that we care about you, that you are important. You know what I mean? And so the big thing is if there's a list here, the first thing is when we talk about getting and retaining people in a very tight marketplace is our companies and organizations need to seriously look at how are we valuing people? Are we just putting them in the grind and grinding them out? And they're sitting there like, after 3 weeks, I don't like this job anymore. Are we taking the time? Managers, are you going out and talking to people? I did a project with this one organization. We did core values with this one organization, and we did a survey. All people said in this for this one organization that we did the survey is what would make a difference in the workplace environment. And they said if people just like if our director and managers would just come speak to us, like say hi, how you doing? How's your wife? How's your kids? So what I shared with the managers was simply every day go out and find several people to talk to. Don't make it just business, 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 business. Take time to go out. You know, there you go, man. Value people. There you go, my friend Oscar. That's it. Just go out and talk to your people. How's your kids? How's your husband? How's your wife? Oh, you told me your mom was in the hospital. You know, how's she doing now? You know, I was I'm doing another project with a group, and something kind of happened with one of my children, and he's okay now, but in the middle of that meeting, I told him, oh, I'm getting a call from where he goes to school, and I said, I got to break away, and I got to take this because right now we're in the throes of this, and I got to focus on my child. And they all understood. So we put them in breakout rooms. They worked on the project, and I spent a half an hour talking about my son's situation. And so we did that. And then the next meeting, 3/4 of the people said, how's your son? Oh, man. You know what that means from a personal feel thing? You know, that even with me as a contractor, that my customers remember and ask me and just want to spend time, and I had one of them that wanted to pray with me. I was like, man, this is beautiful. Why? Because it's something special that happens when you value people. So if you are out there and you're hiring people, you got to understand, you got to value them. You can't just throw them into the grindstone and say, get the job done and put them into that pressure packer. Not today. That may have worked before COVID. It ain't working now. Folks rather stay home. They'd rather stay home. They just don't, they don't put up with that. So now I'm not saying as a business or an organization, we can't we got to work. Yeah, we got to work, and feel free to type your thoughts into the chat because I can see it to some extent, but some of them I may not be able to see. But the reality is love to get your feedback on this. Do you agree with me? As Oscar said, is value in people, love still the number one business strategy? Is that a good business strategy? I personally think so. With my customers, my work is more customer based because I'm a consulting and training firm. I'm always cognizant of how I'm communicating with my customers. In 99% of the case, I have very good relationships with my customers. You know what I mean? I really do. We have great, why? Because I value them. You know what I mean? You may have a few slight cases where people may say something, but the reality is, we value them. So that's number one. And then another thing too, people want, if you want to bring people in and retain them and some people aren't going back to work, and something we need to put in place is people need flexibility. I'll tell you something, I did a live program yesterday, and I'm going to be doing more live programs, but now it's a good mix between live and virtual. Why do I like that? Because I'm a father. You know what I mean? I'm a father and I'm a husband. My wife and I have spent more quality time together than we have in years, which enhanced my relationship with her and relationship with my kids and everything. Why? I have the flexibility now to do virtual programs and be home by 5 for dinner. Just little itty bitty things. People want that flexibility. And I love how so many companies are now doing it. They're making assignments more. Now, some companies, you got to, I get it. The nature of your work is you can't necessarily have a whole lot of flexibility because it's project based, or, if you're building construction on a road, that's, you need people there to build the road. I get it. But if there's any way to weave flexibility into the schedule, you're going to be more appealing as an employer because people need flexibility. My mother used to work for Allegheny Airlines, which became U.S. Air Incorporated. And I never forget, she had 2 young boys, obviously, not forgetting that she had 2 young boys, but I never forget the job because I'm from Syracuse, New York. And where she worked was a place called the Money Building. And the Syracuse people out there, you know what I'm talking about. This big building, I call them the Twin Towers because that was Syracuse's Twin Towers. And where she worked with Allegheny was right in the middle of the area. But Allegheny understood that a lot of the people they hired had little kids. And so they would say after school, they can come here. And so it was like kids in that place. I mean, me and my brother, like this is the early stages of, everything going computerized. And we would play on some of the computers and it was the reservations area. And they would take the reservation calls. I would sit there and watch my mom work. Now that's crazy. I'm not saying everybody needs to do that, but I'm gonna tell you that was a family friendly company. We would go down in the break room and a lot of employees knew who we were and they would share their food with us and share their time and talk to us. Now, it wasn't like every day you had 1,000 kids there, just based upon the situation. She couldn't find childcare, come hang out with mom at work because she worked the shift I think she got off around 7 at night. So point I'm making is that flexibility made that company appealing, to people. All right. And then lastly, a livable wage. It's really interesting to see now how a lot of companies are offering a lot more money than they were before. And the way that's what it's telling people is you had the money all along. I mean, people can see, they're not naive. They can see this person is living a much higher quality of life than I am. And I'm here working as well. So now what we're saying is we're not saying that, entry-level people have to make as much as senior management or level. That's fine. But you know what? If you can create a livable wage where they're not struggling after getting a paycheck all the time, so, I mean, it may mean a bite in other areas. It could be less bonuses for people or whatever, but it shows the people that I care about I remember this one construction company guy gave, this is just crazy, but he gave away these astronomical bonuses for Christmas. And people just looked at your checks like, are you kidding me? Are you serious? You're going to give this to me? I bet that person did not lose one employee. Because why? The person that made their money, they were successful. They said, listen, now let's make it about the people. And I think the more companies and organizations can do that, the more they're going to retain people. Listen, there's some folks that made more money than they can spend in 50 lifetimes. And it boils down to now, let me show the people I care about them. I got more, my family set for the next 5 generations. Now let me break off a little bit for them and show the employees, that we care about you. And I'm telling you, that's where you start to gain loyalty. There's this big company, I won't mention the names, but that I was in a meeting with, and they do just that. The company is successful. The owner and the senior level people have made a truckload of money. And they just said, we're just going to start letting we're going to create things so that people can financially be better positioned. And now this company has a waiting list in the middle of a pandemic, has a waiting list of people waiting to work for their company. They give it flexible time-wise. They have all kinds of benefits. They even have organizations in there to help with marriage and help with child situations, things like that. They have more support groups for their employees than any company I've ever seen before. And now you're sitting here, they got a waiting list. So, Dr. Laney, thank you so much. If you watch this, I appreciate your research because you boiled it down to the most important thing, that's valuing. Now, last thing I want to mention is because, we do a lot of work in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. One of the things that came up in the conversations was creating opportunities for all people. And so the reality is diversity, equity, and inclusion is also a good strategy for employment. When we can diversify our workplace and look at more people from, racial backgrounds, gender, things like that, and start saying the way we've always done it is not the way we have to always do it. I like what Elon Musk says. This is not any against anybody from Harvard. He said, but if I hire a bunch of Harvard guys, they're going to hire a bunch of Harvard guys to work with them. So he said, the reality is I need to hire a diverse workforce so that we can have different perspectives. No wonder his company's worth as much as it's worth right now, because he realizes it takes that diverse perspective to make that company successful, to make that company what it is today. And so it's really important to understand that diversity is not just about what people have made it, about racism and, from a race perspective, because that's the most polarizing aspect of it. Matter of fact, I've been teaching a lot on the fact of what it is and what it's not. I've been telling the organizations I just shared this at this conference the weekend. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is about education and awareness that leads to culture change from an organization standpoint. But what it's not is racism. People think, well, it's just about racism. People are going to say I'm racist. No, it's not. And then people say I'm not a racist. And I'm saying that's absolutely perfect because that's what we want. We want people like that. So that means now we need to become allies and look for opportunities because people are comfortable hiring people that look and feel like them, that where they come from. Dr. Jennifer Eberhardt talks about that in her other race effects. So the reality is, if we want to grow the workforce, one thing we need to look at is diversity, equity, inclusion. That's one way because, historically, we know there's people that have not been allowed to get into certain jobs and opportunities because of who they are. So especially when in a marketplace where, folks aren't working, now's the time to really put those DEI principles. People have no idea. When people talk about DEI, they don't know what it is. They think it's just training, microaggressions, biases. That's it. They don't realize it's about hiring, it's about vendor relations, it's about creating a more diverse workforce, it's about understanding different mindsets, different viewpoints. It's not what people have made it. It doesn't mean that we hire people based upon color, and now it's all about, well, they're taking my opportunities. No, if they're qualified, they just got the opportunity. It's about being qualified. So anyway, remember, people want to be valued. People want flexibility. People want to make a livable wage. If you're out there and you're listening to what I'm saying, these are 3 things to think about. And then include them in when you're recruiting people. So because people are looking for that. I speak at SHRM every now and then. We always talk about this stuff, creating cultures in which people feel really a part of the process of what we're trying to do. And so anyway, but with that being said, if you are out there in workforce development, I do want to mention, when we talk about caring about people, I am doing something with the Pennsylvania Workforce Development Association around self-care. Because another thing we need to do is the people we have, you see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Yeah. So the reality is that we need to find ways to help people take care of themselves. Because you have these jobs and they can be stressful. Self-care is huge. So with the Pennsylvania Workforce Development Association, we're doing a 4-month self-care initiative. A 4-month self-care initiative. And I'm putting the information in the chat feature. And it's open to folks in workforce development. I would think they would be okay if it's corporate. I mean, people who are going to come and learn about, if I'm pouring out, this is important. If I'm pouring out, I got to pour in. I got to take care of myself. I need to physically take care of myself, mentally take care of myself, psychologically take care of myself. And we're going to look at all of that. And so there's the link in there, taking registrations already for it. And we're going to be doing it over the next 4 months. All right, it's just going to be 1 hour per month for 4 months. But when we come in there, there's going to be in between work assignments. There's going to be a variety of different things that's going to take place in order for us to have self-care for our teams. And so if you're a director, it's worth sowing the seed into some of your staff. If you're a president of an organization, it's worth sending people to say, you know what? And what's nice, if you send a team, you can collectively now go back and debrief and brainstorm around self-care, because like me, I believe in self-care. I mean, be honest with you, brother, in good shape. I ride that bike, man, every day. I go places and read. I go to the beach and just chill. Because look at what I'm doing now. I'm always pour out all the time. My whole life is pouring out. I got to pour back in to coach. I'm doing this thing called Bright Line Eating that my wife turned me on to. Lost about 17 pounds. Not even trying to do the whole weight thing. I'm just losing because I changed my diet. That's all. You know what I mean? I'm not sitting there counting calories. I changed my diet and everything started to change. You know what I mean? In the gym every day working out, that's just the health part. Psychologically, I got to breathe. I got to relax. I got an Apple Watch, and it says sometime throughout the day, stand up and breathe. Because, when we work, we don't always do that. We don't always just stand up. And so I just stand up, decompress. I'm telling you, these little Apple Watches are nice. Breathe, chill, go walk around the area. I already work out a lot, so I don't have to do too much of that. But, So I'm saying take care. Take care. So especially if you're in Pennsylvania watching this is going to start next month. But I talked to the executive director, and she said we would be open to having other people outside of Pennsylvania. So take a look at that and see if that can be of help. So, and again, if you want to, when I do these, I always tell people I'm here to just interact with you and discuss with you what we're doing. So on our website that I'm putting in now, if you go to the website and you scroll down, there's a time where there's a slot where you can schedule time for us to chat. You know what I mean? Kate, Coach, I saw your live stream, want to ask you some questions about it. So if you go to the website and scroll down, you'll see, just something regarding scheduling time. It goes straight to my Calendly account. I see it, and then we meet. So that information is there as well. So keep in mind, today I just want to talk about why people are not going back to work, what we can do about it. Yes, a lot of it is naturally happening as a result of a variety of things, but some of it is something that we have control over. So thank you. You're welcome. If we have control over it, and if we implement these things, maybe if we're struggling to find people, we won't have to struggle as much. I'm going to be doing more on this because this is a topic that we need to continue to discuss, because we got to get folks back to the workforce, but they're not going to just come. A lot of times they're not just going to walk out their door and do it. We have got to put systems in place to help them, because we just didn't come out. We came out of something really difficult. We're still in it. Now we got the Delta variant. Okay. So we got to be able to communicate and educate and make people feel comfortable making that step back into the workplace. Last thing, a lot of people doing the hybrid. I love that. In the office 3 days, out a few. Next week, in for a few, out 3. People are making adjustments. And if you're not, that could be the reason why you're not hiring. You're not getting people to come to work. Keep that in mind. Any questions, reach out to me to coachdbeats.com. You can inbox me here on LinkedIn. And this is what we do. Again, we do diversity, equity, inclusion. We do workforce development. We do programs for clients. We do programs for staff. Lots of staff development around core values and integration, team building, things like that. DEI integration, coaching. Our company is full service. We're a social entrepreneur company, and we believe in helping people. And it's myself and several, team members that are with me. And Hamill, thank you so much. It was good to see you, man. Hope all is well. We gotta get on the phone together. It's been a while, man. And so that's it. That's all I got for today. Talk to you later. Take care. Have a passionate day. Bye-bye.